Welcome to Student Athletes Speak Out. There are some firsts associated with this event. First of all, it's the first time we've ever met that it hasn't been in the Jerry West Mountaineer Room. And it's the first time that we've had a live stream of the event, so we're happy about that. And it's also the first time that this video will be posted on both wvusports.com and sayso.wvu.edu. So I hope that you will spread that word today to any interested people who might not be here. Now, some people here have been here since the very beginning, back in 1990. My husband, Bill, is one of them. I think that is a testament to how strong our marriage is, right? He has to come every semester. I just saw Sandy Coldement walk in. Where's Sandy? Sandy's been an advisor. She's been with us from the beginning. And we've had very good support. We really have. And I've told the athletes that people will be coming in and leaving throughout the day because there are varying schedules. So we just ignore that. That's fine. We're just happy to have anybody who attends. By the way, while I'm thinking about it, if you have a cell phone, would you please turn it off now? Anyway, we thank all of you for your interest, especially if you are a coach, an advisor, a professor, or a mentor to one of these students. And I especially want to thank Provost Joyce McConnell, who has taken time out of a busy day. The Board of Governors is on campus today. And Provost McConnell, this means a lot to have somebody from the administration attend because it validates what we do and it lets the athletes understand the importance of academics. Now, incidentally, I should say that all the speakers today are members of my SPA 270 class. They're all in a class. I don't choose people, they actually enroll. Sometimes they're forced to enroll, but that's okay. They're still in class, all right? The lecture is now online, and I only have these students one time a week. So it's difficult to do a lot because we're limited to one time a week. Technically, they meet on Tuesdays. Well, if you think about this semester, there's a 15-week semester. We had one Tuesday that encompassed the fall break, and we have Tuesday that's election day, so we lost 2 class periods. So they're actually here today not during their class time. So they actually go a little beyond what the other students in SPA 270 do. They also did they were involved in some other assignments. One was we visited patients at Children's Hospital, which was a great experience, as always. And another was that they read a storybook, actually my storybook, imagine that, Living Life the West Virginia Way. And we went over to the primary school, Suncrest Primary, and read to all the students. Now, what I love about that is that you get to see some of the personality come through when they're with children. They do things that I don't necessarily tell them to do. For example, the book has 3 parts, and the middle part is about attending college and defines what's a tradition, what's a mascot. And Darryl Worley, I happened to be in the class where he was reading, and he opened the book to where it shows Stripe the Stadium, and he talked about the tradition of singing country roads. But what he said was, we have another tradition that when we win a game, we sing a special song. And the students, they were 3rd graders, very quiet listening to him. And all of a sudden, he spontaneously broke into a chorus of country roads. And when he did that, the entire class sang along, which it was just a great moment because I hadn't told him to do that. When we left that day, we walked out on the playground to leave, and there were about 10 little girls in the corner, and they were all singing country roads. So I said to him, we had impact today. That's one of the reasons I take them out. Now, in addition to teaching this athletes lab section, I also work with another special group, and those are military veterans who have served, obviously, and returned to WVU. They're with us here today because actually this is their class time today. So I want them to stand up as I read their names. Sean Costner, U.S. Army, native of Preston County. Sean will receive his Regents Bachelor of Arts degree in December. Dorian O'Neill, U.S. Navy, a native of Baltimore County, Maryland, and he is a freshman majoring in physics. And Gregory Schaefer, U.S. Marine Corps, and a native of Braxton County, West Virginia. He is a sophomore majoring in wildlife and fisheries. And those students are also going above and beyond because they will be speaking at 2 veterans events in November. And now it's time to have some fun because I know you don't believe this, but I have 7 student athletes up here who just cannot wait to get started. And our first speaker is Ross Renzi, who is a junior majoring in sport and exercise physiology. He's from Burke, Virginia. At Lake Braddock High, he was All-State in football and in wrestling. A 2-year starter for the Mountaineers, Ross won the Mercyhurst Laker Open and finished 4th at the Big 12 Championships as well as the Reno Tournament of Champions. The title of his speech has to do with success stories. It's subtitled The Rock.
I'm from a family of 14. I'm the 8th of 12 children. There are 7 boys and 5 girls. We always have believed that family is forever. We brothers were very protective of our sisters growing up, and whenever young men came to our house, they typically did not return a second time. All of our names begin with R, and as Dr. Atkins mentioned, my last name is Renzi. My purpose today is to tell you that you learn a lot when you come from a large family. First, you learn the importance of organization. My mother was a master of this. When she went to the grocery store, she planned ahead and bought in bulk. She would go at least twice a week or several times a week. When she made hamburgers, she made at least 40 at a time. When she baked cookies, she had to make at least 3 dozen. Meatballs for the get-togethers, at least 100. Every time we ate, it seemed like a feast. Unfortunately, it was difficult to get everyone to the dinner table at the same time. Therefore, we ate constantly. Second, you learn that everybody needs to chip in. The sisters were in charge of dishes and cleaning up around the house, and we were in charge of anything outside. Around the house, we all had chores to do. We had a long driveway, and it was the brothers' task to deliver the trash to the end of the driveway, and we raced and converted that into a race every time. The winner held it over everybody's heads for the next trash pickup, and we loved to compete. That brings me to my next point. Because competition was so naturally ingrained in us, we all played sports. All 7 of us played football, and 5 of us wrestled. When you have 6 brothers, you get a lot of practice wrestling, whether you want to or not. That's one of the reasons that 3 of us earned college scholarships, and my little brother recently won a state title, so hopefully he's on his way as well. Most of us competed in other sports too. I played baseball and soccer and ran track as a child. All my sisters were involved in gymnastics. My oldest was a beast of the group, winning multiple state titles and qualifying for the world team trials. Although we try to support each other, the girls typically attended the girl events and the guys attended the guy events. It's just easier that way. If you are guests of our family get-togethers, be sure you show up ready to compete. As Michael Jordan says, or we will embarrass you. Every time I come home, I'm getting challenged or called out to do something. When it came to competing, we always used to refer to this quote, "You don't grow up in our neck of the woods believing that someone can outwork you." I should add that we also learned about discipline. Having a father who was old school Italian Catholic, he disciplined us the old school Italian way. That didn't include grounding, however, because it was difficult to ground a fleet of children. Although we were a rambunctious group, we listened whenever my dad talked. My mom paled in comparison. There was never thought of missing Mass on Sundays, regardless of any activity scheduled. Finally, the main thing you learn coming from a big family is how to give. You cannot be greedy. From the youngest to oldest, there's a span of 20 years. That's 20 straight years of pregnancy. My sweet mother, God bless her soul. So we're not all playing with toys at the same time. However, there were usually at least 3 or 4 of us who wanted the same thing. For example, we lived on 8 acres of land, and we had a four-wheeler. We all wanted to ride it at the same time, so we had to learn to take turns at an early age. Whether we were playing video games inside or sports outside, we had to include all of our little brothers, which usually resulted in them getting hurt, but however, they learned to be tough. We were always taught that if we were getting something for ourselves, we had to remember to get something for the younger ones. Whenever I went out to eat, I always brought back something for my younger siblings. In conclusion, coming from a large family has taught me many things, but the most important thing it has taught me is family is a priority. When I have the opportunity to go home from school, I stay around the house to be with family. It's more important to me than going out with friends. I think that Lee Iacocca said it best. The only rock that I know that stays steady, the only institution I know that works is family. Thank you.
One of the things that I love about teaching is that it's such a celebration of diversity, often reflected in cultural names. And many years ago, one of my favorite players' names, and you may remember him, he played football, was Elijah Longino. I loved that name. It was so melodic. And our next speaker's name has the same effect on me. It's Mariano Adame. He is a freshman swimmer whose main event is the butterfly. He's an English major from Austin, Texas, and was a two-time qualifier for the Texas High School Regionals. And the students will bear me out here just about every time in class that they're giving speeches, and they go in voluntary order, and I say, "Who's next?" Ross says, what?
Mariano Adame.
Yes, right. So the title of Mariano's speech is Good Enough for Einstein.
As a native of El Paso and Austin, Texas, I grew up surrounded by flat land. And as much as I love West Virginia, there are days when I miss that. I came to swim at West Virginia without ever making a trip here. So you can imagine my surprise when the hills that I researched were much steeper than I thought. It seemed that everything was uphill. Because it is about a 25-minute walk to the natatorium, and because swim practice begins at 5:30 a.m. and weights usually at 7:20 a.m., it is not an easy task. It wasn't long before I made the choice. I had to buy a bike. Therefore, today I want to tell you why students should use a bicycle for transportation. You may think it isn't safe. It's a lot harder to pedal a bike than it is to ride a car. It's a lot easier to steal than a car is. But I can assure you that the positives outweigh the negatives. First, let's talk about financing. Obviously, bikes are cheaper and therefore easier to finance than a car is. Even with good credit, it's difficult to get a loan. Now, you may have to spring for some rain gear, lights, and possibly some other accessories such as a basket and a pump. But you will have transportation regardless of the weather or the time of the day. And the best part is you don't have to buy gasoline, change the oil, or ever have it inspected. Second, let's think about some of the other positive points. Here's a big one. A bike is easier to park than a car is, especially on the West Virginia University campus. You can fit in tighter spaces and you can lock it. It's also good exercise. It's much better than riding in or driving a car. Also, if there's traffic congestion, it is easier to go around it simply by going on the sidewalk. As a matter of fact, many cities and college campuses are adopting bike share programs. The main reason is because they help to reduce traffic, congestion, and air pollution by serving as an alternative to personal vehicle mass transit. Kent State is one example of a college campus that allows many users to borrow bikes, helmets, and locks for short-term use or daily use, as they return the equipment to its point of origin before closing. It's just another example of recreational fitness and wellness opportunity. Finally, bicycling saves time and increases independence. Now, I can personally get to the natatorium in about 6 minutes, instead of walking for 25 minutes. Also, I don't have that much time in between classes, sometimes as little as 15 minutes, so the bike helps me arrive on time and get more work done. And it allows me to be more independent. I don't have to constantly ask my teammates for rides to the Coliseum. In summary, a bicycle is good for the environment, your health, your budget, and even your convenience. So the next time you are in the market for transportation, think about riding a bike. As actor Steve Carell stated when he was talking about the importance of a healthy body and a healthy mind, look at Albert Einstein. He rode a bicycle. He was also an early student of jazzercise. You never saw Einstein lift his shirt, but he had a six-pack under there.
Now you can rest. And I do want to introduce one more guest who came in during the first speech, and that's President Gordon Gee in the back. Thank you for coming. We're glad you're here. In your pink. I like it. Okay, we now turn to women's soccer, a team, I might add, that has recently won its third Big 12 championship. Let's hear it for them. One of the team members is Macy Stolniker, who is our third speaker. This number 12 is a freshman forward from Butler, Pennsylvania, and she's majoring in forensic and investigative sciences. She earned 11 varsity letters at Butler High and was a 3-year recipient of Butler High's Triathlete Award. She also competed in varsity track and field, and her team won the 2013 U.S. Club Soccer Regional and advanced to the national tournament. Macy is going to tell you about a sound mind and a sound body.
From the time I was 9 years old, I have been a dedicated athlete. I was always trying to improve myself and be the best that I could be. With that type of commitment, one would think that it would be easy to improve. However, that was not the case. When I ran track, it was fairly easy to practice running wherever I was. But lifting was another story. When I played soccer, I could work on some skills in my backyard, but that was limiting. Based on my experiences, I believe that not only should high schools provide students with more opportunities for fitness, they should provide student athletes with more access to facilities and equipment outside of practices to help improve athleticism. When I attended Butler Senior High School in Butler, PA, it was frustrating to try to improve athletically without paying the price of a gym membership. If I wanted to be able to run on the track after hours at the school, I would have to climb 2 fences in order to do so. If I wanted to lift, I had 1 hour after school until the weight room was locked. I couldn't practice shooting because in the off season they would take the nets off the goals. Let's compare this to the athletes who played football at my school. The coaches were able to provide numerous times to accommodate the football players' schedules. For example, they could lift pretty much whenever they wanted, whenever we only had an hour to do so. They had first priority to the field whenever they wanted, and we, on the other hand, had to schedule 2 weeks in advance, and if the football players need it, we would get kicked off. The benefits of recreation and sports participation are numerous. An article titled "College Athletics, Necessary, Not Just Nice to Have," stated the following benefits: leadership development, spirit, pride and loyalty, memories, life fitness, stress relief and pro-social behavior, well-roundedness and balance, town-gown relationship, and lifelong friendships. Furthermore, an article by Sharp made the following points about the benefits of recreational and sports facilities. Not only can new or renovated fields, stadiums, or gyms bolster community spirit, they also offer spaces for kids to establish a regular, physically active lifestyle at a young age. This is an extremely important preventative strategy to fight chronic disease and obesity. Sharp further emphasizes that athletics provides outlets for students to develop important skills such as leadership, persistence, practice, and group responsibility, among others. In 1961, one of the 3 recommendations that President John F. Kennedy made for schools was that they provide a minimum of 15 minutes of vigorous activity every day for all school students. He declared that physical fitness is not only one of the most important keys to a healthy body, it is the basis in dynamic and creative intellectual activity. He also so eloquently stated, "A sound mind and a sound body is one of the oldest slogans in the Western world." Thank you.
Our next speaker, Carly Black, is also on the best women's soccer team in the Big 12. She is from Horsham, Pennsylvania, number 24, who plays defender, and she is following in her mother's footsteps because her mother played soccer at LaSalle. Presently, Carly is an exercise physiology major. She graduated in the top 10% of her class academically in high school, where she also won many academic and leadership awards. At WVU, she's been named to the Garrett Ford Honor Roll, the Big 12 Commissioners Honor Roll, the President's List, and the Dean's List. The title of her speech is Hard to Swallow.
For my first 2 years at Happer Horsham High School, outside of Philadelphia, I enjoyed school lunch. The cooks made homemade soups, tasty sandwiches like Philly cheesesteaks, and there were a variety of snack options. Presently, my sister Janie is a senior at the same high school. However, things have changed due to Michelle Obama's National School Lunch Program. Gone are the snacks and wide variety of options. Instead, everyone gets the same thing, whether they want it or not. Janie describes students who are forced to take an extra side or food that they do not want. Unfortunately, their way of dealing with this is to simply throw the unwanted food away. When the First Lady first proposed this program, she reportedly wanted to achieve 4 things: more nutrition information, increased physical activity, easier access to healthful foods, and personal responsibility. And actually, that sounds pretty good, especially since a government document states that 1/3 of the children in our nation are obese or overweight. And without a major change, those born in the year 2000, 1/3 of them will develop type 2 diabetes during their lifetime. Therefore, school meals are now supposed to contain more fruits and vegetables, less calories, fewer salt and fat, and whole grains. While this makes sense, I believe that the present federal student lunch program should not be mandated in public schools. In the first place, according to Newsmax, the changes affect 30 million students, and over 1 million have stopped buying school lunches due to less enjoyable options and expensive pricing. Interestingly, just as my sister said, the mandatory fruits and vegetables end up in the trash cans anyway. Also, because the lunches are smaller, some students are still hungry. Second, the Huffington Post notes that the changes have been expensive and difficult to put into place, and they have asked Congress and the Agricultural Department to roll back some of the requirements. The lunches are more expensive than before, and add to that the cost of throwing away unwanted food. As a matter of fact, the price tag of this program was $11 billion. Another problem is that some schools have not been able to find options that meet the requirements. For example, the trays must have at least 1/2 cup fruits or vegetables. The milk can contain no more than 1% fat. And trans fats are completely banned. Also, because the higher minimum calorie levels must be met, despite lower calorie fruits and vegetables and portion sizes, some schools have admitted to adding pudding and chips to the trays in order to meet the requirements. Finally, reports indicate that many high school athletes need more protein than the guidelines allow, one of the glitches of the program. The government responded by amending the regulations. However, this means that everyone now receives a boost in protein, whether they're athletes or not. Once again, There is no such thing as individual choice. While Michelle Obama's goals are praiseworthy, and I do agree that we need to make a change, especially with the obesity rates in children, I do not think that the present program is the solution and should not be mandated in public high schools. At least, not all at once. I remember a time when my parents wanted me to switch from 2% milk to skim milk. Initially, I just couldn't do it. It was too different. Instead, I went from 2% to 1% and then to skim. Somehow, the period of adjustment made it easier. I feel the same way about the federal mandated school lunch program. We need a transition period with better planning in order for it to be more acceptable, because the present program is hard to swallow.
I just saw two of my former students walk in, and I'm going to have to recognize them. They're now coaches on the football squad. This is how old I am, all right? Jay One-Sider, stand up, and Damon Cogdale. Thank you for coming. I also want to recognize Nikki Izzo Brown, since we just listened to two of her players speak. Congratulations on your win. And actually, before we're finished, I'm going to have the athletes introduce a few other people. Tucker Cascaden plays second base for the WVU baseball team. He was a 4-year starter for the Lamar Redskins in Houston, Texas, and also named to the Greater Houston team in his junior and senior years. At WVU, he is a freshman majoring in strategic communications. He will tell you about something that is simply not worth it.
From the time that I was 7 years old, Tony Gwynn was an iconic professional baseball player. He was a role model to all young baseball players, and I was no exception. Every hitter wanted to be Tony Gwynn. When the West Virginia baseball team played the San Diego State Aztecs last March, Tony was the head coach of the Aztecs. Unfortunately, just a few months later, on June 16th, the night before Father's Day, he was dead. He was 54 years old. The cause? Salivary gland cancer. My hero, Tony Gwynn, dipped tobacco throughout most of his career. He was no different than a lot of baseball players. He dipped tobacco throughout most of his career. The nicotine gives them a buzz, which calms their nerves. Some say it acts as a stimulant that helps them study, focus, or even stay awake. Peer pressure plays a big role as well. Some people consider it a cool thing to do nowadays to do with their friends. That's what I thought when I was about 14. So, I tried it for a few months. Why? Because all my friends were doing it. When I learned the consequences of dipping, I stopped immediately. So, today, I'm here to tell you that you should not chew or spit tobacco. According to an article titled Smokeless Tobacco and Cancer, smokeless tobacco is a tobacco that is not burned. It is also known as chewing tobacco, oral tobacco, spit or spitting tobacco, dip, chew, or snuff. Most people chew or suck the tobacco into their mouth and spit out the tobacco juices that build up. Although spitless, smokeless tobacco has also been made. Nicotine in the tobacco is absorbed through the lining of the mouth. In addition, the article goes on to state there are at least 28 cancer-causing chemicals in smokeless tobacco. Users often end up with oral cancer, esophageal cancer, and pancreatic cancer. Also, users are more prone to heart disease, gum disease, and other oral lesions. It actually increases the oral cancer by 50%. The bottom line is this: there is no safe tobacco. Nobody knows the consequences better than Joe Garagiola, a former catcher in the Major League Baseball League who became a popular announcer and TV host. Although he developed the habit when he played for the Cardinals, he quit cold turkey in the 1950s. He became an advocate to convince others to quit. One was Major League pitcher great Curt Schilling. Garagiola tells a story of forcing Schilling to go to the doctor with a free screening, and when he came back, they were both happy that nothing was wrong. Unfortunately, the good news did not last. Schilling was later diagnosed with mouth cancer and went through several weeks of chemotherapy and radiation. TMZ Sports reported that Schilling said, "The pain that I was going through in this treatment, the second or third day, it was the only thing in my life that I wish I could go back and never have dipped. Not once. It was so painful." In summary, smokeless tobacco may seem harmless at the time, but the results can be life-ending. Don't waste your health or your money on any type of tobacco. It's just not worth it.
And now we'll turn to football. When Daryl Worley committed to WVU, he had one request: to wear number 7 for sentimental reasons, to honor his cousin who also wore number 7 in high school and was killed when Daryl was a sophomore. This Philadelphia, Pennsylvania cornerback is a sophomore majoring in broadcast journalism. And because of his strong work ethic, Daryl was voted Iron Mountaineer by the football coaches. The title of his speech is Better Things Ahead.
I grew up on Broad and Erie Avenue in North Philadelphia. It was a rough and violent neighborhood. Young children weren't outside once the streetlights came on because of drug and gang-related problems. I figured that I would continue to attend the high schools in my neighborhood. College never entered my mind until my freshman year, when I was awarded a scholarship to a private high school. It became clear immediately that the environment was different. There were advisors, college counselors, and college preparatory classes. In addition, I knew that more college recruiters would be coming to watch me play football for the William Penn Charter Quakers. All of a sudden, I knew that I had a chance at a better future. Hopefully, I would not be one of the 1.2 million yearly high school dropouts. Keep in mind that half of these dropouts reportedly come from 15% of our high schools in nation's high poverty neighborhoods. And almost 50% of children living in urban areas live in low income families. It's easy to see why they don't understand the importance of higher education. Having a chance to attend college changed my life. A college education opens up doors for a brighter future while teaching you about others as well as yourself. A college education will make a difference in the type of job that you have. Workplaces here and abroad are competitive every year and require more qualifications than ever before. And a college education will give you more options regarding the type of job that you want. Second, a college education will make a difference in your salary and therefore your lifestyle. A National Center of Education Statistics offers these facts about median earnings from 2012 for young adults. Those without a high school degree earn about $23,000 a year. People with a high school degree made about $30,000. Those with a bachelor's degree made about $48,000, and people with master's or higher made about $60,000 a year. Attending college teaches you how to be self-reliant and how to handle stress. Some classes are now online, which allows flexibility in your schedule and how you are responsible for meeting all deadlines as in a face-to-face class. It helps you develop time management, which in turn alleviates stress. During a football season, I begin my day around 9 a.m. in the weight room lifting. Then I go to classes from about 11 to 2. Then around 2:30, I'm attending meetings at the stadium and getting ready for practice. After practice, my day is still not over because I begin meeting with tutors and working on homework from about 7:30 to 9:30. Most importantly, college teaches you about others, but also about yourself. For example, it has taught me to do several things. It has broadened my horizons and helped me look at things with a more open-minded standpoint. It has helped me learn about different cultures, to meet different kinds of people, and to see things from a different point of view. Because of college campus is definitely a more diverse environment than I grew up in, it gave me a family away from home. Even though I played football in high school, being on a college team is definitely different. We are more like brothers, and we can depend on each other. Also, because I struggled academically in high school, I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to handle the work. However, the college prep classes helped me, and WVU tutors give me assistance and academic support. My advice to middle school and high school students that are thinking about attending college now: get online, search different colleges and their admissions requirements and deadlines, search scholarships and grant opportunities, seek help from your guidance counselors, talk to your parents and let them know that you are interested in college. In conclusion, you should consider attending college to open doors, improve your future, and to learn more about yourself. As a college student, you are expected to be mature, and maturity helps you make decisions. You won't always make the right ones, and you won't always make the wrong ones. But you should always own your choices and learn from them. Maturity does not occur at a given age. It is not chronological. It is human to make mistakes, and it is not unusual to stumble in life. And maturity is not necessarily about seeing the bigger picture. It is sometimes about understanding the smaller details that make the picture meaningful and complete. It comes with experience, and Huxley said it best. Experience is not what happens to a man, it is what a man does with what happens to him. College is a time of growth for your future and for your character. It is a positive environment that will help you move forward in your life. And in the words of C.S. Lewis, there are far, far better things ahead than any we leave behind.
Did you get new shoes, Daryl? No. Okay, I just wondered. Our last speaker is Dustin Garrison, number 29, a running back from Pearland, Texas. He attended Pearland High, where he led the team to a 16-0 record and the Texas 5A state championship as a senior. He was named 2010 Offensive Player of the Year by both the Houston Chronicle and the Houston Touchdown Club. At WVU, he received the Boss Man Award for accountability this past off-season. A junior majoring in criminology, the title of Dustin's speech is Weathering the Storm.
It's 6 o'clock in the evening, and my family and I are at my grandparents' house. We're in the middle of a 2005 hurricane season in New Orleans, Louisiana, and knew another one's on the way. We were used to this every year. Depending on the severity of the hurricane, we either stayed in and boarded up the windows and doors, or we went to Houston and stayed in a hotel until the worst was over. When we watched the news on TV, we learned that it was a Category 5 hurricane, which is the worst type of hurricane. So there was a mandatory evacuation for the whole state. We learned later that it would be the costliest storm in the United States history, impacting over 90,000 square miles, with 80% of New Orleans underwater, up to 20 feet deep in some places, higher than the ceiling in this room. We were fortunate enough to have the financial means to evacuate, so we drove to Houston. We, part of the 1.5 million people who left. As a 7th grader, I remember being excited about staying in a hotel. I had just made the football team in New Orleans, and I was excited for our season to begin. However, the place I called home and my life were soon to change. I was soon to learn that sometimes bad things can amazingly result in positive outcome, at least for some of us. When we left for Houston, we took only enough clothing for 3 days. After repeatedly washing our clothes, we had to buy more, but eventually the money ran out. The day that the hotel told us we had to leave was my sister's birthday. She was turning 6. She was happy it was her birthday and telling everyone in the lobby while we sat in homeless, not knowing what to do next. It was at that point help arrived, and we certainly needed help. A couple asked the hotel clerk if anyone needed assistance. They saw my sister and asked what room she was in. When they learned that we didn't have a room, they threw a birthday party for my sister in the hotel lobby and brought us a hotel suite for 3 days. As a result, they became good friends with my parents and offered us a place to stay with them. We lived with them in Pearland for 4 months. Moving in with them and now returning to New Orleans opened up a different world for me. The education system was much better in South Houston than it was at home. Also, even though the area experiences hurricanes as well, they were typically not as frequent or as severe. And there were more job opportunities for my parents. We bought a house, and all of a sudden, I was in one of the best football states in the country. So, how does the experience change my life? Several ways. If I had not attended Pearland High School, I would not have received a Division I scholarship. In addition, I would not have had as a strong academic background entering college. But the two most important things were, I would not have understood the powerful effect of the kindness of strangers. And finally, I would not have understood the meaning of weathering a storm. As a matter of fact, Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans August 29, 2005. When I got to Pearland High School, they asked what jersey number I wanted to wear. And it was an easy reply. I wanted number 29. I wanted to remember where I came from and how I got to where I was. Where I came from and how I got where I was, sorry. I also want to honor those who were there who were not as fortunate as I was. I'm grateful that I was one of the lucky ones. Some people never got the chance to make a positive out of a negative. Over 1,800 lost their lives. Many of them were senior citizens. Over 700 people went missing, and many people who did survive lost loved ones. In the wise words of a Japanese writer, and once the storm is over, you won't remember how you made it through, how you managed to survive. You won't even be sure whether the storm is really over. But one thing is certain. When you come out of the storm, you won't be the same person who walked in. That's what the storm is all about. Thank you.
Somebody introduce any other football people.
Cider, Coach
Okay.
Cockdale.
Introductions here. Who else?
We got advisors, Jill and Miss
Stand
Kelly.
up if you're advisors for football. All right. These people have their work cut out for them. Trust me. Okay. Okay. What about Ross? Anybody here that you want to stand up here? And
Just want to thank everyone for coming, you for putting it together. And my advisor walked out, but thank you all, Coach Heskett
but your advisor was
president.
here, right?
and Marsha Bennett.
Okay. All right. And how about women's soccer? Is there anybody else that you all come up?
Nikki Izzo Brown, our coach, you mentioned her. Lisa Stoya and Marissa Canella are in the back. Steph is here, our advisor, and half our team came to support us.
Great. Great. Good support. And swimmers, you said that your advisor was here but left, okay? And then football, shaking his head no for baseball. All right. Very good. Before we entertain a few questions from the audience, I also want to thank Oliver Luck. He couldn't be here today, but he certainly is so helpful, and Kathy Martin from his office for helping us put this on. In addition, Chris Austin and Mike Vergale and John Antonick, who have helped us out with the live stream, and Brian Persinger is here photographing. So everybody who helped me with this event, I'm sure, Chrissy Zachary from the College of Education and Human Services. I'd also like to introduce two gentlemen who have a real interest in the development of college athletes and their well-being. And they actually drove here this morning from Washington, D.C. to be with us today. Robert Northrup. Robert, stand up here. Robert served as a United States Postal Inspector for more than 30 years, heading major investigations and serving in supervisory roles. And Bob Flores, Bob, stand up, a federal prosecutor for 13 years who was appointed by President Bush to serve as the federal government's chief advisor on juvenile justice and safety issues. So we're happy you're here. Thank you for coming. Now, are there any questions from anybody? We have a few minutes left. Be happy to entertain questions. I'm sure they won't care if you don't ask any, but feel free to ask. It's good practice for them. Anybody? Okay, well, thank you for coming.